But the podcast is called Queering My Boyfriend, right?
Yep.
That's what we decided on.
You're treating me like a shed that you're fixing up.
A gay
A
shed.
gay shed.
We've been going out now how long?
Been going steady for nearly 2 years.
We've been courting for how long?
It's like nearly 2 years.
Is it really?
It will be 2 years on the 9th of April 2025.
When people ask me how long we've been going out, I just go about a year.
We live together.
I know, but that's what it is, isn't it? It's we've lived together about a year.
It's...
But I don't count anything before we were living together. I don't count as us going out.
Oh.
I count that as like we were warming up. We were taking a long run up to the runway.
I feel the opposite. I feel like we've been going out 10 years, but we've done it in a year and a half.
Anyway, look, the point is, for anyone who doesn't know who's watching this, I am one of them queers. Specifically, the T in it, in the LGBT, which stands for big old It stands for transgender, right? That's what I am. You knew that when you met me.
I did.
Okay, I didn't trick him. I didn't ensnare him, did I? I didn't say, ooh, look at me. I've got a Did I? Did I do that? Tell the people.
In a way.
In a way, I did do that.
Well...
Speak, honestly.
Because I met you at one of your stand-up shows about being trans.
Well, exactly. That used to be all I used to bloody talk about, thank you very much.
I believe that show starts with you going, warning, warning, trans persons in the building.
Exactly. So, I didn't trick you, did I?
No.
But, not that it would be tricking you anyway, but the point is...
What point are you making?
I don't know. You knew I was a trans person, okay?
Yes.
You were fine with that.
Yes.
But you also identified as a straight boy.
Yeah.
For the most part, right? That's true. Because, like, correct me if I'm wrong, but before going out with me, you never been with a trans person before, right?
That's what you think. I'm the hardcore chaser.
No, be honest.
Yeah. I've courted many a woman in my time.
And none of them were of the trans variety.
None.
And you've never dated anyone in the queer community before me that you know of?
Not officially.
No. Well, okay then. So there you go. So we thought it'd be an interesting podcast to do. Where what are we doing?
It's called Queering My Boyfriend, where Jen is going to take me through the queer world of cultural things I may be ignorant of or unaware of or may enrich my life in some way. And I'm going to show Jen some straight culture, some of the real fucking world that she's been ignoring and snowflaking away from. And it's just funny, like, we both come from very different walks of life, both come from very different spaces, and especially as we've lived together, those like differences of like points of reference, ways of being, all that kind of thing, we're both quite ignorant of in our ways. Yeah,
I think for me what it was like the way that we got together and everything, it wasn't really that big of a deal, like the whole like I think what it is our relationship is like normal, like anyone's relationship.
Yeah.
But one thing about it that I think is pretty different is that because you've never been in a queer relationship before, not an overtly queer relationship, and I obviously have, and I am a queer person, there are these like things that are like cultural reference points, or there were definitely moments when we first started going out, and even now, where you kind of are like, I'm kind of trying to say to you, look, you are in the community, especially now because you date a trans person. Like that, like regardless of what you think, like you kind of are in the community. But then from you, there was like not in any kind of like homophobic way, but there was a kind of a pushback that was like, am I though?
Well, yeah, no,
I feel like I'm constantly being like, you are a no, not really. I feel like I'm constantly being like, look, you are queer, Chrissy. You are. And Chrissy's like, no, I don't deserve this. I haven't earned the right to call myself this. And I'm like, but we have sex.
yeah, but it's a personal thing, and it's
Well, I
like
know. That's what I think so interesting about it. Though.
I agree and disagree. I don't really know how else to express it. Like, I get what you're saying, but like, I have my own like journey with these things, and I don't know. It just feels weird for me as a kind of like trying to be self-aware cis man of being like, I'm with you, I'm in this space kind of thing. It feels odd. I'm, regardless of like sexuality, I'm more like reserved anyway. This is where the kind of divides begin. I've never had to consider like self-identifying myself or labeling myself in any way. I've just been the whole time. I've never considered it. So the idea of it, because I've never gone on any journey of being like, I arrived and then just didn't ever have to consider anything ever again.
Well, you say that, but this is one of the things that I think is really interesting. Is like, because we have been going out and you pursued me, right? There is an element of this which is like, well, you must have known what you were getting into a little bit. Like, there must have been a thing in the back of your mind that was like, well, I know that Jen is trans, so there probably will be some challenges that come along with that. Or were you just completely
Not
naive?
really, to be honest. Well,
Really?
what challenges?
Well, okay, but you know what the world is like.
I do know
you
what
know
the
what
world
the
is
perception is of trans people, and you know what transphobia and homophobia is, and surely then you must have flashed in your what seems to be your completely empty mind once of like, well, will I receive any grief about this from friends or family or strangers or what?
Well, my position on it was, honestly, not to be all noble, I just didn't give a shit. Like, to be perfectly honest with you, like, I didn't, I knew, I'm lucky as I knew anyone in my life, if they did have a thing, would, like, come around if there was an issue, and if they didn't, fuck them. I'm very quick to, like, write people out.
Yeah, and I can I don't think that's you being noble. I can, like, be honest and, like, testify to that like, you have always maintained that position with me, and, like, there's never, like, you're the first, like, guy I've ever, like, dated who has clearly, like, not had a problem with it in terms of, like, how it extends over into family or, like, meeting friends and things like that. Like, it wasn't an issue. And I've said that to you before. It's always kind of shocked me and surprised me. But at the same time, I still find that kind of mind-blowing that you wouldn't, at least in terms, just purely from a point of view of, like, what that means for you as, like, well, okay, the way that you're perceived by people. Like, the way that you are perceived by friends and family as, ostensibly a straight guy. You must know that, like, guys who date trans women are not necessarily perceived that way. They should be, but they're not always perceived that way.
Yeah, I'm on TikTok. I get
Exactly.
enough hate. Like, I'm aware.
So,
But I don't, like, I don't care. Like, when it comes to that, like, I'm like very self-conscious about myself, but, like, in terms of, I don't give a shit. Like, I don't care what's the media things. Like, it just doesn't register.
well, I have to say, I was very worried about you meeting my friends and family.
I've only met
I didn't
two
want
of
them
your
to.
friends.
I didn't want them to know that I was dating a straight person. Ugh,
I know
yuck.
you're.
That's why I'm trying to queer you up so much. I'm trying to stick a rainbow t-shirt on you. I'm trying to.
I know your queer arty friends were so disappointed with me.
They wanted me to date some non-binary twink.
I know, and then I didn't even cross enough into being like a proper man. Like it wasn't like enough of like a football lad for it to be like novelty. It's like, oh, just Jen's dating a straight guy.
Yeah, sometimes I do think to myself, oh, I wish you could be a little bit more of a like a straight gammon piece of shit. Like I just want to be able to have that conversation where they're like, "Where's Christian?" I'm like, "Oh, he's down the football, getting into fight. Where's Christian today? It's Saturday," and I'd be like, "Oh, he's bare knuckle boxing down in the local car park.
I'm at the bookies.
He's at the bookies. He's spent all my money that I earn doing gay things."
Your gay dollars.
One of the things that we've kind of noticed while dating is that, like, there are things that are like second nature to me, like almost like cultural touchstones. Like, just to give like this is a very broad, silly example, but something like Angels in America, or like certain music, or like Priscilla, Queen of the Desert, things like that you were just like, like you've never even heard of it. And to me, they're like really important, like cultural touchstones. And I just thought, well, it'd be fun and interesting to do a podcast where we kind of talk about those things. So we were thinking, like, every week we each do like a cultural exchange, from queer culture to straight culture. And I can show Chrissy something, and then he will show me something, and then we'll talk about it.
Yeah.
And that just seemed like a pretty darn simple idea for a podcast.
A rock solid format.
A rock solid format that I think could have potentially groundbreaking success.
No, well, it's what we do anyway. I mean, a lot of how we enjoy something is you showing me stuff and me showing you stuff, and then we quite often go, oh, we'd like to actually experience something new together.
I probably should state that we are oversimplifying things a little bit. Like, we're fully both aware that, like, to just be like, well, Christian's straight and I'm queer, like, that, what a crazy scenario it is. It's like, well, things are not black and white like that. But for the purposes of a podcast, where you have to have a niche,
there's a niche.
It's black and white. I mean, look how straight this jumper is.
And she got it for me.
Exactly, because I'm learning. But to me, like, see, this is what I mean, is like, to me, this was like the whole funny debate of it, was that, like, to me, I was always like, well, you're not straight, obviously, because you're dating me and you pursued me, and, like, it'd have to be something a little bit not straight about you. But, like, you at the time were like, ostensibly like, no, I am straight.
No one of us met you.
No, but I don't mean you ever said that.
Yeah.
But I mean, but you clearly did have a problem with being aligned with the queer community.
Well, not like that. Well,
No. I mean, like, not.
Yeah.
No, I meant as being seen as a part of it. Not in again. I should like make it really like, clear. Not in terms of like any homophobia.
Yeah.
But in terms of like you not feeling like you had earned that position.
Well, yeah. No, I mean, I.
But it's not like you don't earn that badge by going to a gay club 10 times. You get it from your lived experience.
This is kind of like the whole crux of the podcast, is because I have, regardless of how I identify, I have lived with no one ever kind of like, I've lived with a high amount of privilege. No one's ever assumed anything of me, and as a, I identify as a bi man. But I've never had myself questioned or had to. So it felt odd to me to. Oh, well, because I mean, I've only really been talking about it for like a couple of years, so it just feels a bit odd to be like, I'm one of you guys now.
Sure.
It felt odd to take that kind of position because I don't know. I spend too much time online, and it feels like a prestigious university, and I feel too dumb to get into it.
Look at you, you're so little queer, baby. Because like, here's one of the things, right? It's like, so we're both comedians, and one of the things about the London stand-up scene is there are like a lot of nights that are like that label themselves as like queer nights. This is a queer comedy night.
Yeah.
Some of them are like, we're a queer comedy night, but we also accept allies because there aren't enough queer acts on the scene, apparently, who can do a 20 minutes, which is not true. But so one of the things I was saying when we first like get together, I was like, yeah, you should apply for those queer nights.
Yeah.
And you were like, no, I can't. Maybe rightly so. Maybe you were like, no, I can't. Maybe you're right. Maybe it's like too quick to be like that. I don't know. But my perspective was like, go on, just tell him who you're having sex with.
Well, it wasn't...
Tell him Jen sent you.
Yeah, but that was kind of the thing of... that's... It wasn't like I met you and then like my journey began. It was a long time. It's like I wasn't even living in London at that point, and I'd only ever very slowly started talking about this to people, and have never really. I mean, I've properly like told my friends and things, but
see that you know what's interesting is that there's a complete kind of like flip side to this as well, which is like my experience, which is that like people also make assumptions about me because of that. Like, I think when people see us, obviously people see us as a couple, strangers in the street, for the most part, whether I'm clocked or not, they assume that we're like just a straight couple. Because they just go, oh, man, woman,
yeah,
that's fine. But like, it isn't that. And like, they don't know about my like history and like who I am. And they don't know about yours. But would you agree though, regardless of like, I mean, you're going to have to agree with this because it's the whole premise of the podcast, is that like, regardless of how you identify, because of your positioning, because of your like friend groups and culture and all that kind of stuff, you don't know anything about queer culture.
Yeah, no, I don't. I mean, I've only run with the straights.
Yeah, that's a good way to describe it. They were your gang.
I have a gay friend.
You have a gay friend?
No, I've only ever run those things. I've only ever been perceived as that, and I've always kind of ignored everything else on purpose.
So the thing that I am going to be sharing with you this week as a part of my queer culture is the Muppets.
Yeah, you've exposed me to a lot of Muppet content.
Which is crazy. You didn't know really anything about... I know there's going to be a lot of people who are going to be sitting there now with their arms crossed and go, the Muppets not queer? What are you on about, you daft bitch?
Well, I'm sort of... You read my mind.
Yeah, but like... But let's look at this then. You had no Muppet knowledge.
No, I didn't. Well, I knew what the Muppets were. I know Kermit goes like, Miss Pig goes like, but other than that, like, I don't know. It's just.
You knew what the Muppets were, but they were just like, they were just like a.
I'd seen the Muppets in space.
See, that's one of the least queer Muppet experiences.
And, I think I had a Happy Meal toy of Kermit at one point in my life. But no, I mean, my mother ruled with an iron fist, and the Muppets were not allowed because they were silly, not because she thought they were queer.
But maybe that is what it was.
My mum has an inherent hatred of camp.
Okay, so that's interesting, right? So you would admit that the Muppets are undeniably camp.
Yeah.
They're camp. They're kitsch, they're camp. Especially nowadays, now that it's like, you know, more nostalgic. They are camp. That is queer culture. Like, there's something I do think, you know, I think queer people can like go a bit overboard sometimes with things that they identify as queer. That like sometimes queer people like in a supermarket be like, oh my god, ham, that's so queer. Like, oh my god, that loaf of bread is so queer coded, right? And sometimes you're like, no, that's just like a loaf of bread. But I do think the Muppets, like, here's the thing, the history of the Muppets, coming from Sesame Street and, you know, the kind of inclusion and like, you know, liberal left-wing propaganda of it all. The Muppets is, I mean that in a good way. The Muppets is, you know, it has a queer legacy. It's always been queer adjacent, and I just think I think glamorous, like Miss Piggy alone is a queer icon, undeniable.
But what does that actually mean?
Well,
What makes her a queer icon?
she's a strong, independent woman. She doesn't need Kermit. She just loves Kermit. But she's a strong, independent woman. She's like Dolly Parton.
But I understand I understand Dolly Parton more than Miss Piggy.
How are they different? In what way are they different? They're both sassy. They're both independent. They both got big tits. What do you need to know? Their mother. You know when you hear people talk about mother.
Yeah.
That's so mother.
Yeah.
That's Miss Piggy.
Yeah, but what does that mean?
What do you mean? What does that mean?
Well, what does it mean? She's not your mum.
Queer people idolise strong, independent women.
And why do you
Judy
think
Garland.
That is? Why do you think that is?
Because they're underdogs. They're underdogs. You can relate to the struggle of it. Do you think that Miss Piggy wouldn't have been one of the ones who was like raising money for the AIDS crisis or whatever? Listen to moi. The year is 1983, and there is a disease ravaging our gay community. We need to raise money. So I, as a queer person, am bringing you the Muppets.
Yeah.
You are presenting me as part of your culture with
Grand Theft Auto 5.
Grand Theft Auto 5. Just going straight in at number 5. No need for any of the previous ones.
No.
I guess it's the most up-to-date one, isn't it?
It's the most HD.
Do you know what? I think it's interesting because it's like... I would agree that Grand Theft Auto it's a very straight thing. I don't think there are like many queer people who like particularly identify with obviously anyone can play Grand Theft Auto. If you're queer and you buy Grand Theft Auto, it doesn't mean anything, but I think there's a difference between enjoying a game and then like identifying with like the content of the story in the game.
Oh yeah.
Because Grand Theft Auto is not new to me.
No. I think, is it a particularly like straight thing to like fantasize and roleplay, like murder civilians and things like that?
I don't think it is so much anymore, because here's one of the interesting things I think is that like I think a lot of queer people who go through a lot of like struggles and feel like society is against them a lot of the time, I actually think they can get a lot out of role playing games like that, like letting off steam kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like I think particularly if you're a trans person and you feel like society's so bad right now and no one likes me, it can be pretty good to like get in a Grand Theft Auto car and run over some people.
But I wonder if it's like it's more of like I would think it's obviously very like straight thing. There's obviously a very masculine thing, because
what is
Grand Theft Auto? It's a masculine fantasy in the sense of it's about becoming a billionaire and having cars and like sex and just murdering people and money, and it's all.
Well, see, but that's what I find interesting is that I don't necessarily perceive it that way because this is what I'm trying to say is that like so I have been playing for this podcast and just generally.
They're not, because
but for this podcast, you bought me Grand Theft Auto 5
I bought it for you to
play it properly, and I'm playing it like from beginning to end, like the story mode. I'm not that far in, but I'm playing it. It's not the first time I've ever played the game. I used to have the game.
Oh, you're a gamer girl, really.
I'm not really, but I back in the day when it came out, everyone was buying that game. I worked in Tesco Express when that game came out. The Tesco Express, which is just a small express store, they stocked it because it was so popular. It was like GTA fever, right?
Yeah.
And because I worked there, I got a pretty significant discount on it. So I did buy a copy. And I thought, well, I'll play it and then I'll sell it.
Mm.
Because it was such a significant discount. It was like 40% or something
Yeah.
off it. So I was like, well, I'll play it and then I'll just trade it in or whatever, which is what I did ultimately. And I didn't actually like properly complete it or anything.
Mm.
But so GTA is not new to me. In fact, I'm a bit older than you, so I actually have even more of a memory
Yeah.
of when Grand Theft Auto 3 came out. And I used to play Grand Theft Auto 1 on my uncle's PS1.
Okay, boomer.
But I'm just saying it's true, I did. So I know all about it. But I'd say what the primary difference is now is that, like, I've never identified with it as, like, a story or as, like, what you were just describing it as is this, like, power fantasy or this kind of, like, oh, cars and money. And I guess, like, I know the thing of it is, like, prostitutes, all that kind of thing in the parlance of the game. But, like, I only just perceived it as, like, a sandbox to have fun in, like, fly a plane into a mountain kind of thing.
Well, that's what it is. I mean, I think I'm talking more from the perspective of how it, like, presents itself and all the marketing and stuff like that. Like, for me, I think I agree with you on what it is. I mean, that's what I get out of it. It's just fun to get in a car and run people over and things like that.
Yeah.
But I think the stories in it are rubbish, but that is all it is about getting as much money as possible.
Well, you say that.
Becoming king of this town.
Well, you say that, but I actually am going to disagree a little bit because I think that's what it has become because of, like, the life that it's had.
Yeah.
But, like, so, again, I remember when GTA 3 came out. Although I didn't know it at the time, what that game is just like a mishmash of, like, references to gangster films.
Yeah.
Like, there's very little, like, original story in it. It's like, oh, go and do this thing, you know?
Well, yeah, it's like
But that's what GTA 5 is as well, the story of it.
Yeah.
It's, like, references to, like, 90s movies and, like, stuff like that. What you're talking about is, like, online, right? Like, all the money and the...
Well, that's kind of just what I think of it nowadays. I mean, it's like the online thing, the new, yeah.
Because the bravado element that you're talking about, because I'll tell you, when I did initially back in the day get GTA 5, I had it on Xbox. And the big thing, the reason why it stood out was, like, people talking about how it had online. And I remember I tried online for like, I lasted like 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Because it was just so nasty.
Yeah.
Like, people were just, like, horrible on there. And that's certainly, you can't argue with that. That is, like, a really, like, masculine bravado place.
Without question.
Like, having, like, 1,000 male voices screaming in your ears.
Yeah.
Because you dared to come in to their server.
No, definitely. I mean, even things like, you know, the loading screens, girls in bikinis, guys with big, like, aggressive dogs and guns and stacks of cash.
But it is a game, and that is, and everybody, lots of women like GTA 5. It's like it's a game to play, you know?
Yeah, definitely.
It's like, you know, when you get, like, a lot of guys who are like, I don't want to play as a woman or whatever. So it's not actually true. Like, a lot of guys do like to, like, actually just like, it's like watching a film. It's like you escape into a story in a world. It's not, as long as it's not permanent, as long as you don't come out of Grand Theft. It's like when you played Red Dead Redemption, you didn't think you were a cowboy after playing it.
Oh yeah, but you pretend for a little bit
while you're there.
When you're little and you see, like, a really, like, good, like, action film, you don't come out of it, like, with your chest puffed out a little bit, like, I'm Bond. You're the Spider-Man now.
You're the Spider-Man.
Well, mainly I wanted to be Wolverine, so I'd, like, come out of, like, an Odeon being like, you know.
Is that what you would do?
Yeah, like the claws.
I don't think I've ever come out of an Odeon like that before.
No, because you're watching all these queer films.
Only when I saw Funny Games. I was like, I'm gonna kill a family. But it has been interesting, like, playing it, like, properly, like, now, like, what I would say something about GTA is, and this is something I have to ask you, I guess, as from like the point of view of the kind of the demographic that I would argue GTA is aimed at.
Yeah.
Is it good? Because like in terms of the story and the jokes and the humor, because I don't think it is.
Oh well, the story, the writing of the auto games is awful.
But it feels like it thinks it isn't.
Oh, it doesn't think it is. No, it's not leaned into. I mean, the thing is, like, a lot of these, like, I'm going to, for the sake of argument, call it like a male fantasy thing, are inherently funny because they're all like based on ego and things. They think they're self-aware, those games. They're not at all. It's like
that's the weird thing about it, is it thinks it's self-aware,
Yeah.
but it isn't. It's not self-aware enough to know how cringe it's being.
I think the difference is, especially this one, I think it's less than the other ones. It's trying to be cool, whereas the other ones were trying to be funny. This one's trying to be funny and cool.
There was a mission that I was doing yesterday on Grand Theft Auto 5 where for some dumb reason that doesn't really make any sense, you're Franklin and you have to like drive Michael's son around.
Yeah.
And like you can tell the extent of the writing is, oh no, sorry, you're not Franklin. You are Michael and you have to take your son to the beach to ride a bike.
Oh, you remember that one?
Yeah, and it's not that, but it's the dialogue that's happening in between. Like Michael is like critiquing his son's language when he's on his video games. So you can tell it's like trying to be self-referential. It's always like nodding at itself being a game, but like it also just like it tries to have its cake and eat it as well, because it's like joyously throwing slurs around.
Yeah.
It's like Michael's like, well, I heard you saying this, and then proceeds just to say like a whole line of slurs. And it's like, oh, but you can't really like critique it and be it at the same time.
See, I don't think it's offering any critique. I think
it's offering self-referential critique. It's always winking and going like, we know we're a game and we're referencing our own fan base. That is what it does.
Yeah,
It does it in the radio stations a lot.
Yeah, I think it's more of a like having a cake and eat thing of like they think those words are funny. So how do we get away with saying them a lot? Okay, we're gonna have this character who's gonna say them loads, but then someone's gonna have to say you can't say them. But whilst
exactly.
doing it.
Yeah. Because it's like always like Michael's son going, Dad, you're such an old dinosaur. Don't you know about this? And then he's going, I'm a dinosaur. You called me a But I think the dilemma that I have with Grand Theft Auto 5 is playing it is that like, yeah, all those things suck and they're all annoying and they're not funny and they're kind of cringe and embarrassing. But I can like shoot a bazooka at a helicopter and it's like properly fun.
That is like...
And what I'm saying is that is fun for anyone.
Yeah, no, like
they're good game.
The gameplay of it is really fun. Like you just get to do whatever you want. It's fun. It's when it like you'll kind of have to do like there'll be a point I imagine when you're like playing of like I don't have to do the story. I've unlocked enough of it so I can just like run around now.
The thing is though, I feel like maybe I'm imagining this, but I feel like there's like a division in whoever's writing it, because sometimes it feels quite heartfelt and like there's someone in there who's like trying to write a story. Like particularly like with anything to do with Franklin, like it feels like most of it is like kind of interesting or is trying to say something. But then you've got these two other characters who are like, one of them is just like a Tony Soprano ripoff with like none of the depth, and then the other one is just like a psychopath.
Yeah.
Who is supposed to just represent like the player's sort of like baseline nutso tendencies. I think one thing about Grand Theft Auto 5 that is like sort of undeniable is just how kind of like how misogynistic it kind of is, how it doesn't really like women at all or gay people. Like it's kind of like when they're not really in it, and when they are in it, they're like ridiculous, like completely.
Oh
ridiculous.
yeah, no, I mean,
like there are no women in it, and the only time there is really like at this part of the game anyway is like Franklin's mom, and she's like just like an idiot.
Yeah, they're either being like whiny, annoying old women, or it's like, oh, kind of thing.
Yeah, like
those are the only
nag,
two things.
Just nags and sluts.
Yeah, and any, like, well, it's any queer characters, only gay men exist. And that.
No. There are trans characters in it.
What?
Yeah, because there was a big controversy about it a couple of years ago. They're just like generic like street hookery.
I see. I don't see.
No, yeah, you don't see. You wouldn't know.
I just see everyone as a person, kind of thing.
No, there is. There was a thing a couple of years ago where people were like, has anyone actually seen the trans characters in there? They're like ridiculous. They're what you think they are. It's just, it's not a hot take. It's not an original take to be like Grand Theft Auto is misogynistic. But it's surprising they've had so many games and not managed to like nuance that out at all.
Like I said, I want to. I don't think.
Well, the next one has a playable female protagonist.
Well, we will see how that goes.
We will see how it goes.
Because I mean, right? We'll see how well they do that. But I mean, coming off the back of any of the other ones, it doesn't inspire me.
No.
But who knows? They might have learnt their lesson. I was trying to get you to say a more like personal take on why you identify, or like not identify with the Muppets, what you personally see in it. So you've been talking very generally.
Well, I think the thing about the Muppets is that it's like it's intrinsically countercultural. Like the Muppets, there's nothing like the Muppets are one of those things that they are undeniably popular, but they haven't always been. Like the Muppets is like the Muppets when it came out was a countercultural thing. It was like it's not normal, is it? The Muppets, like how no puppet thing has ever been as successful as that.
Sooty and Sweep.
Sooty and Sweep cannot hold a candle to the Muppets. Bodger and Badger wish they were Muppets.
Punch and Judy.
Punch and Judy, maybe. Punch and Judy is quite queer.
Is it?
Yeah, because like the alligator eats the baby, and it was sausages. No, Punch and Judy is like spousal abuse.
I know, that's why.
Yeah, what is queer about the Muppets? It's a hard one. I mean, like, other than look, there's a lot of queer things about the Muppets, okay? Firstly, just the fact that they're, like, colourful, singing, dancing, goofy, cabaret puppets. I mean, the clue is in all of that. There's something very, like, old, vaudevillian, like, variety show. Like, it's hard not to be like, it's hard not to see, for me, a direct line between, like, musicals and vaudeville and, like, cabaret and then the Muppets. Like, they exist in that world. Well, look, the Jim Henson Company and Jim Henson and Sesame Street beforehand has always had, like, a philosophy of, like, inclusion and acceptance and, you know, in those old Muppet shows, like, if you just look at, like, the guests they're having, a lot of them are, like, queer gay icons.
Yeah.
There's obviously people on the staff who like it's not the kind of show where you can imagine they would be like, oh, you can't be a Muppet puppeteer because you're gay. Like,
oh yeah, no, completely.
I mean, here's the thing about Miss Piggy as well. Miss Piggy is voiced by a man. Miss Piggy is voiced by Frank Oz. And yet Miss Piggy is the most real woman in the world. She's like an icon. Like, everyone loves Miss Piggy. How can you not? Miss Piggy's a star. Kermit is a king. Kermit's a king. Everyone wants to see Kermit win. Kermit's an everyman. Love Kermit. But the fact that Kermit is with Miss Piggy is... Do you know what? You're Kermit.
Well,
I'm Miss Piggy. This is what it is. I see myself in it.
You've sent me on multiple occasions photos of Kermit and Miss Piggy and gone, this is us.
Well, it's true. That's how I feel. But there are other Muppets that I feel like you can make queer arguments about. Gonzo in particular. You know Gonzo?
Which one's Gonzo?
So Gonzo is... Remember when we watched
Is
Muppets?
Gonzo Dickens?
We watched Muppets Christmas Carol yesterday, which you've never seen before then. And yeah, Gonzo was Dickens. But there's something about Gonzo's lore that you need to know, which is that Gonzo, although all Muppets are... They're all like... They're Muppets at the end of the day, right? A lot of the time a Muppet... You can look at a Muppet... Most Muppets are kind of androgynous. A lot of them are just like, what is that? You know? But Gonzo in particular is... Part of his lore is that... I'm saying he, but like, the truth is we don't know Gonzo's pronouns really. Gonzo is an alien. Gonzo doesn't really like fit in with the world. He's lovable. Everyone loves Gonzo. Gonzo is like beyond queer. Also,
He's post-queer.
he's post-queer. There is maybe this is not actually that good of a point to make in this setting, but Gonzo fucks chickens. Gonzo fucks chickens.
Like in Pink Flamingos.
Well, don't spoil it because I've already shown you Pink Flamingos.
Yeah.
I need to pretend later that I haven't. But yes, Gonzo does, like, you missed it because you don't know the lore, but in Muppets Christmas Carol, there's a bit where there's a bit where they
stuffs the turkey.
No. There's a bit when they like fly off. You know when they're holding on to the spirit, and he has a chicken attached to him. And when they stop, he introduces Rizzo to the chicken and gives him her name as if they've had like an intimate moment. I can't remember. He's like this. Oh, he's like introducing him. He's like, oh, by the way, this is Belinda or whatever.
Are you messing with me?
I'm not. I swear, I'm not messing. Write in the comments or send us a message. Does Gonzo fuck chickens? It's established law. He dates chickens, so therefore he fucks chickens.
This is like the thing though of a thing that I envy about you a lot. Of I watched that film. I watched all of it, and I'm not as smart as you, but I didn't even notice half this stuff.
No, but you wouldn't notice that because you don't know the context. You don't know the precedent. You would watch that and think, oh, Gonzo's just like being polite. But actually, no, Gonzo lusts over chickens. I regret bringing it up because it's not a good thing to like convince you that there's nothing queer about having sex with chickens. You shouldn't do it. But what I'm saying is Gonzo is like, he's the definition of an outsider. The Muppets are a phenomenon in that like, okay, you can go to Primark and you can buy Muppets pajamas or whatever.
Yeah.
They're popular on that level. They're ubiquitous in society. But are most people actually Muppet heads? Are they actually Muppet fans in the way that I am? I don't think they are. And I think the queer community is like helping to like hold on to the Muppets. Well, like, but tell me, like, are you enjoying, like, because we started watching, what's the first Muppet thing I showed you? The Muppet Show?
No, we watched Muppets in Manhattan, and then we
Muppets
watched
take
the
Manhattan.
Muppet.
They take it. They don't just visit it, they take it.
Yeah.
They queer it. Muppets
that
Queer
what
Manhattan.
makes it queer?
The Muppets Queer Manhattan.
Well, like GTA is a queer fantasy to take the city. It's like Lady Gaga marries the night.
You're getting so good at this. Marry
I've
the
been
night. You gotta fight for your life.
The credits come up. It's this thing. Why do you like them so much?
Well, okay, so I think that, like, for me, when I was a kid, the Muppet Show was, like, one of those things that was on TV that, like, I just intrinsically related to in the sense of, like, it was one of the first things where I was like, this is for me. This is made for me. And no one else really likes it. Like my family, it was not particularly into it. My grandparents hated it. None of my friends were like Muppet heads, but like to me it like spoke to me, and it was like to do with like the guests they would have on, you know. It was like the music. It was I was one of those kids. I liked like magic and I liked puppets and I liked all that kind of stupid stuff. It was glittery and glitzy and campy, and I loved Miss Piggy. And I don't know if this makes any sense, but I don't know why, but I thought Kermit was hot. I did, like this, but this is the thing, it doesn't make sense, but I know it doesn't make sense. But in my head I was like, well, Kermit to me represents like the perfect man. He's like a good man. And I remember thinking like, and Miss Piggy is like the ideal, like she's like the prototype.
Yeah.
Like she's an icon, like I want to be Miss Piggy. And I was like, well, Miss Piggy loves Kermit. I love Kermit. I am Miss Piggy. When I was a kid, there wasn't many things like that I related to, and the Muppets was one of those things that I just genuinely, I was like, this is for me. And I guess by extension, that's why, because it was one of the first examples of something that was like countercultural, or like even counter to like my friends and family. I was like, this is outsider art. This is it, you know.
I never felt like I experienced that myself.
You never had anything like that?
No, well, because so many things were like not allowed. That no, I didn't. I say there was no campness in my house. No kind of outside of arts expressive, like the allowed alternative art from the 90s that my parents like understood, but anything out of their wheelhouse was like a no.
Okay, let me ask you this: do you like the Muppets?
I enjoy
Why is it taking you so long to answer that?
because I don't know. I feel like it's I've not clicked with the Muppets fully yet. I still I don't dislike any of it, but am I as enamoured with it as you are? It's not. Its charms haven't fully got to me yet.
But Miss Piggy, you do concede.
Well, yeah, Miss Piggy's the only one that I find actually like funny in it.
But what about Kermit?
Kermit's not funny.
No, but Kermit holds it together. He's like the glue that holds
Yeah,
it together.
he's like the host.
He's the host, yeah.
Yeah, as a queer person playing Grand Theft Auto, did you
Well,
did you get anything else?
well, I don't see myself in it. Like, I don't like as a piece of media that like tells a story and like is trying like all pieces of media have like a vision of the world, right? And like, for example, the Muppets' vision of the world is love and kindness and dancing and like singing.
Muppets Vision of the World is the one you actually want to live in.
And chaos as well. There's a chaos to the Muppets. The Muppets are like, the Muppets at their best are like, the Muppets exist with humans. Like in the world of the Muppets, it's not like Muppet World.
Yeah.
Like the Muppets exist in humankind. They live along, like, for example, like when we're watching Muppets Christmas Carol, one of the things that's so striking about that is that like there's just as many people in that film as there is Muppets. They're like when there's like a group of people talking, there's Muppets and there's people. They're all kind of intermingled. Like Muppets are just like types of people. So the Muppet world is like, Muppets kind of represent a kind of like a more chaotic sort of like version of but even so, yeah, it's a world that you kind of want to live in. It's a happy place. And I relate to it and I love it. And for example, like Lady Gaga did a thing with the Muppets. And Lady Gaga and the Muppets, like, to me, Lady Gaga is a Muppet. Do you know what I mean? Like, she's but what I mean by that is she's like a showwoman. She's got, you know, she plays characters. She is she exists in that world perfectly. And that is the world I want to exist in. Grand Theft Auto 5, as fun as it is sometimes, and it is fun driving a car around and like running over like people, it's not a world that I particularly connect to. In terms of the story, I don't care what's going to happen. I don't care what happens to any of the characters. In fact, I have to try really hard not to skip the cutscenes.
Yeah, I think what I would say there is, I think the Muppets worldview is optimistic and nice and is free.
Yeah.
I think GTA's worldview is cynical and
cynical.
Indulgent and nihilistic and a bit mucky.
Do you feel any more queer?
I'm gay now.
But do you genuinely feel any more queer?
I don't know what feeling queer is. The Muppets haven't penetrated my psyche where I've accepted their worldview yet.
And similarly, I don't feel particularly engaged in the world of Grand Theft Auto 5, but I will continue to play it and I will complete it.
I'm very glad though you're not in the world of Grand Theft Auto 5.
But are you going to continue with Muppets? Are you going to tolerate more Muppets from me?
I don't think I have a choice.
Well, I think it's more of like, I think it's like...
No, I'm more open. I'm open to the Muppets.
Well, that was the first episode of Queering My Boyfriend, where I share something what is queer with my boyfriend, and then...
I share something that is straight for from my girlfriend.
And then we share that with you.
We enjoy the clashes together.
The cultural exchange of things.
And we find out why we are the way we are.
And that is a very like Radio 4 kind of. And we find out what makes us tick.
What makes us us?
And the rest is queerness. And we just try and bring a little bit of queer joy to this sad, straight, depressing